All right. Well, listeners, got a treat for you today. I've been communicating back kind of with this fella in his group, Christian. I'm not pronouncing it. Tell me the exact name.
So CHIA, the Christian Home Inspectors Association.
Awesome, Mr. KC Bartley out of Tennessee. I think is it Pro Home Inspections? That's the name of your company?
Professional Home Inspections, yes, sir. But Pro Home Inspections works as well.
Awesome, yes. Awesome. Well, KC, it's a pleasure to have you. You're doing great things out there. Give us a little background about yourself and where exactly are you in Tennessee? And how did you, I always say this, none of us probably grew up wanting to be a home inspector because when I was a kid, I didn't even know what that was. Right. We all kind of, we have different paths. So I'm curious about yours.
Yes, sir. I location northeast corner of Tennessee, so in the mountains, and I think maybe you do some business in Asheville. Is that correct?
A little bit. Yeah, we have one inspector there, but yeah. Kind of often it's tough because if you're not from that area, it's a little, you got Charlotte and you got Raleigh that are a little more metropolitan, probably like Nashville, Knoxville.
Right.
And then, you get a little bit more in the mountains and stuff. It's and I'm from a small town. It's hard, if you're not from there and they don't know who you are, who your mom and daddy are.
There you go. There you go.
Anyway, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
Oh, no, absolutely. So I'm 45 minutes west of Asheville, the Tri-Cities. You got Johnson City, Kingsport, and Bristol, and everybody knows Bristol from the racetrack, of course. Right. We're actually a larger metro than most people think. I think if you looked it up nationally, we're like, and you're going to laugh at this being from the Queen City. I mean, that's a big metro, but I think we're the 96th largest metro in the U.S.
Yeah, it's not bad, man.
Yeah, man, we've got 1 million people within a 50 square mile radius, maybe a little more. So good market.
It's not bad. That's not bad at all.
What brought me into this? I don't go back too far, but out of high school, never went to college. Picked up a hammer and started working with my stepfather, doing claddings, siding, decks, replacement windows, room additions, prefab sunrooms, things of that nature. I instantly took to it, and anybody that knows the trades, and I hate to generalize people, and I'm probably going to do that a lot through this interview, and I don't mean to generalize people, but you have either people that care about what they do, or are just getting through to get that paycheck on Friday. So
pass the drug test.
I always cared about the quality of my work. Being able to read a tape measure to the 1/8 of an inch is wonderful. If you can read it to the 16th, you're an expert. I mean, and make those cuts. And so I always took pride. Did that for 3 years with my stepfather, and then just bought my own truck, my own tools, and started subcontracting for just, multiple either GCs or companies in the area. Did that for a few years, wound up going to Lowe's and doing their contracting work for decks, windows, siding once again, and got a good name with Lowe's. And they started using me to repair projects that other contractors had messed up some degree or another, and they'd send me in there to save face and make things right. I've always been good at talking with people. So, I could go in, kind of de-escalate the situation, make the repairs,
putting out fires.
Yes, exactly. And I actually ended up doing extreme home makeover for Lowe's and Pella, representing Lowe's and Pella. And so when they contacted me, it was actually Lowe's corporate that contacted me, and they said, hey, we want you to represent Lowe's and Pella out of the Southeast, for extreme home makeover. And it was in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is about a 5.5 hour drive for me. So I'm 44 now, must have been 28, 29, 30 at the time. And I can remember driving that 5.5 hours, and I was like, this is going to be so awesome. It's going to be me and Ty.
I know how this is going to end, because I've had a similar story, but go ahead.
So I was like, me and Ty, shoulder to shoulder. we're going to be lifting the door in there together. I'm like, Ty, hold this corner here. We pull on, set your fastener, So I pull in, I think I got there at 10 a.m. You know, they work 24 hours. And so or 10 p.m. Got there at 10 p.m. Huge stadium floodlights shining down on this house. At least 150 people working at the same time. And that is amazing in and of itself, because most time you've got two different trades in one house. They're in each other's way. You know? Right. It was so well orchestrated. But anyway, man, I worked all night long. Ty, there were security guards out there, you know, somewhere off. And I said, where's Ty? They pointed, you know, about 150 yards away, $500,000 RV. You know, they're like, oh, he's sleeping. He usually comes in and they'll pull out the cameras and he'll, you know, he'll pull off the tape measure and say, looks good. And then he'll go back to his RV. So never met him, you know, but the experience was cool to help somebody, but it wasn't what I had, you know, anticipated.
I have a similar story. So my first sale came to Charlotte, and they had contacted a realtor, and a realtor got me, you know, and I was all excited that, you know, they were the film crew was out there. I think it was High Noon is the one that did it. And this has probably been 7 or 8 years ago, or maybe even longer. But I go out there in KC, they film my whole inspection. I mean, they follow me around, you know, I'm thinking I have big stuff.
Yes.
You know, a 3.5 hour inspection. They film me going over the inspection, blah, 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 blah. And you know, I'm thinking, hey man, I'm going to be the next time.
This is it.
Yeah. And then they actually got me for another one. Probably about a month later, they had it was a different situation. They filmed, I don't know, 20 some episodes here. And this was a situation where somebody else had inspected it, and that guy didn't want to be on TV. But would I come in and point some things out? And I did. And I went, and I was just there for a few minutes. I wasn't even there that long. I didn't do the whole inspection. Right. I just walked around. They filmed me, you know, and I was pointing some stuff out, and there was some siding issues and blah, 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 whatever. And there was this, it was up at Lake Norman, and there was this, the neighbor's dog, it was like a Rottweiler, was just going bananas. And they caught me on camera. I was like, nice dog. And, you know, I was like, my eyes got all big. They actually put that on TV, but it was cool. But okay, so neither here nor there. I literally was there like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, not long at all. I did get to go eat with the film crew afterwards, which was kind of cool. And they told me that deal fell through, and it was because of that dog. But okay, so fast forward when this thing comes on TV. I didn't know what the plot was on either one of these. I should have asked. So I found out that first one was going to air, told all my friends. I mean, we was going to have a watch party. Sure. I mean, my mom, dude, I was on there 15 seconds. Oh. Now, that literally, like, they filmed me for 3 hours. I was on there 15 seconds. I was just like this much of a 2 hour. And, you know, they had a whole storyline going. These people were trying to sell their house, blah, blah, blah. And I had no part of that other than just a little small incremental part.
It's surprising because, and this isn't brown nosing in any means, but you're a very personable person and a good, decent looking guy. I've got a wife, but you're a decent looking guy.
I gave this guy there'll be a 12 pack in the car.
But no, really, I'm surprised that they didn't try to turn that into something more, because knowledgeable, personable, and a decent looking guy. You know, you surprised.
What's so crazy is the second one, when it aired, I actually had more airtime, and I really didn't even do the inspection. But what made me mad about it was I was yelling at the TV, KC, because I'm sitting there watching. I know what really happened. They filmed this thing as this couple trying to sell the house, and then they couldn't sell it. All right. And they said they had the realtor on there. They kind of made the home inspector the bad guy. And I'm yelling at the TV.
Total opposite of what you were going to portray. Yeah.
It never really went big time or anything. So, I mean, nobody ever said anything to me. But they proposed it as they were focusing on the people selling the house. And these people came in, they had it inspected. So they're sitting there with a realtor, and they're like, hey, yeah, and I never could get that inspection report or something. And I'm yelling at the TV. Number one, I didn't do the inspection. Number two, you're the seller. You don't have to, it's not your inspection report. It's not, you know, but the way they made it on TV.
Yes.
And they said that they wouldn't buy the house because of the selling. I mean, the siding. And I'm yelling at the TV, it's the dog. It's the dang dog. The people told me y'all are lying. That's not why they didn't buy the house. But anyway, I mean, neither here nor there. But what I found out was reality TV is not reality. I mean,
right.
There might be a little bit of reality in it, but they have to have a script. They have to have drama. And, I asked them, I was like, it costs like $6,000 a day to have that film crew out there filming. So they have to make it interesting. And, interesting stuff happens to us, but not every day. I mean, honestly, most days are kind of boring.
Yes,
so they have to, create an angle, create a thing. But I guess my problem with it is if they're misleading people as that being reality, that I don't know. I have a little bit of a problem. If they said up front that, a couple of things have been changed to make it more dramatic, I'd be fine with that.
Absolutely.
I agree. It's just like that wasn't reality. So now when I see all of them, I'm kind of like, that's probably not what really happened. Yes. Somebody sold a house, somebody bought a house, but the way it was presented, I guarantee you there's some facts that aren't right.
Do you know Mark Bartley?
Heard the name.
Mark is, man, you'll have to check him out. Mark is awesome. He's probably the foremost cladding expert in the country. He's out of Utah, the building consultant, I believe it is, but he's in big with EDI, Exterior Design Institute, right. With your stuccos and ASV and EIFS. But he had a pilot on HGTV that you'll have to check out, and I think did a couple episodes and they never really picked it up, but kind of on the same lines that we're talking there, but he actually got it going a little bit, but I just don't think it was, probably exciting enough. They would have to try to create, but as far as knowledge, it was a great couple, episodes, but I think that they're, like I say, they're looking for that drama or
they got to have it's like the Kardashians or something, there has to be some tension on every show. Yes. Yes. And, I got to be careful here. I don't want to get sued or anything. But I know Wally Conway used to do, I think it was he did a show a long time ago. And then there was a guy for a long time, Steve Savas or something. I think he's out in California. I actually liked his show. He was just, but it probably wasn't a whole lot of drama. I mean, I'm actually friends with him on Facebook. I've talked to Tyler. I want to get him on an interview. I thought his was pretty good. And then there's another one we all know. Yes. That's probably not a favorite among inspectors. And I got to be careful. I don't want to get.
I like him. I'll jump in.
Okay.
I do like him. I think he's knowledgeable. What I think is unfair is now he does not care a bit to throw an inspector under the bus.
There you go.
I don't like it because he's tearing out the drywall and finding stuff.
We would never do that. Yeah.
No. And so that's what I don't like. I do like his knowledge base. I do like, how he tries to improve the home inspection industry and make sure, buyers are getting full disclosure and all this, but he's too quick to say, home inspector should have caught this, yada, 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 while pushing, and maybe I need to be quiet too, but while pushing.
I get a cease and desist letter. I mean, they probably got powerful lawyers and stuff.
You're a great guy, though, but I agree. Yes, sir.
And there's some people that argue that, he's bringing awareness to the profession. And again, I think it goes back to what we were saying, and there has to be some drama. And somebody told me I think that's out of Toronto, that's up there, that's actually a home improvement show that, they were looking to redo the kitchen anyway. So they need a reason to tear the kitchen up, and it's like, oh, that leaky faucet. Oh my gosh, we got it. And then, of course, they dig up the drain, or something, and like, oh, well, that home inspector should have seen this underneath the floor. Like, well, how could they have? I it's a double-edged sword. I do like the fact that he brings awareness to the profession. Before that, there's a lot of people didn't even know who home inspectors were. I always get announced as an appraiser. Hey, here's the appraiser. And I'm like, no, home inspector. They didn't even know what it was. But no, I'm with you. And they say there's a new one out. Some guy up in New York. Actually, I want to try to interview him. Mazza or something. I haven't seen it yet, but they've done one show, I think.
Seen some rumblings in the groups about somebody talking about it.
Yeah. Yes, sir. But I don't know how you would navigate that. Let's say if they came to you and wanted to do a show, and, you know, put yourself in their place. I mean, obviously the notoriety would help your business, you know, and you would get known and you could use it and use it and use it. But then, you know, when they come to you like, all right, we've got to make this exciting, you know, like in my case, you know, when they said the reason they didn't buy that house was because of the siding, and I knew it was because of the dog. The film crew told me. I mean, that deal had already gone south, and they told me behind the scenes what really happened, you know. So
right.
Anyway, now that we've gone down this rabbit hole,
I'll fast forward real quick through the rest.
Sorry, man, that was my fault.
No, man, I like getting off on these tangents, dude.
Well, I like to make it like we're having a beer. You know, that's kind of the whole premise.
Yes, if it wasn't noon, I would probably go. So left Lowe's, got my contractor's license, and started a remodeling company, man. Primarily exterior remodeling. I was the regional dealer for Thermal Industries, which is a kind of child company. I'm sure you've heard of Atrium Windows and Doors. So and did that for about 4 years. Had two, and this will lead into something else, but had 2 crews, sometimes 3 crews, installation crews. Had an office manager, had a salesman. You know, how can I? And I've said it before. I did a tour podcast, but dude, I lost everything when I was 36 years old, and it's because I was no longer doing the work myself, and it was so difficult for me to find good people to work for me, you know, that really took that pride that I talked about earlier. The guys that I were finding was all looking for that Friday paycheck, not the quality of the install that they were doing. And so it just kept coming back where, you know, the client would not pay the remainder of the, you know, the contract. I would have my installers collect that upon completion with a completion certificate. They'd come back and, oh, she wouldn't pay, you know, she's being tough. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? I drive out there. Well, no wonder she wouldn't pay. I mean, it looks like my sister installed the deck, you know, so materials ruined. I would have to repurchase the materials. I paid these guys draws along the way. I'd have to repurchase materials. I'd have to pay another crew to go out there and make it right. After that happened so many times, man, I couldn't stay afloat, you know, made me sick at that time. I've been married for coming up on 17 years. We've been together for 21 years. That time had one, thank you, man. Thank you. Had one daughter at that time. And I was just sick, Preston. I was like, you know, this was my dream, and I lost everything. And so as soon as, you know, I lost the company, I went to work in Lowe's. So Lowe's loved me when I was a contractor for them. So they brought me in, you know, hey, we're going to move you up to this position where you make some good money, yada, yada, yada. First time I had a boss in, you know, 18 years. And
that's a little tough, man. Actually,
yes, my friend. So I was driving home one day, just unhappy, and I was praying. I said, God, please help me find something where I can make a good living, and it's you know, just me, and I'm not liable for or responsible for anybody else's livelihood or their work or whatever. Home inspections popped into my mind out of nowhere. I didn't have a home inspection when I bought my house 15, 20 years ago. Hadn't really heard of the industry, but it just came into my mind. Right. Went home, Googled it. This is on my daughter's birthday. I'll never remember it, August 4th. Googled it, found Nachi, signed up. Back then we had to have 90 hours of, you know, of the coursework, and then go take the NHIE. Did all that within 30 days. Got licensed. And dude, haven't looked back. The first 3 or 4 months when I started, I was going to every realtor office I could, getting past the gatekeepers, shaking hands, kissing babies, dropping off marketing materials. And then
what year was this? What year was this?
This was 14.
Okay.
13, 14. Yep. And then the floodgates broke open, dude, to where, and just out of nowhere. And once again, I have to say it was God. God was like, I gotta provide for this young man so he can take care of, you know, his wife and daughter. And my first year, I did over 300 inspections.
Wow.
Yeah. And
came out of the gate strong, man. They had some good marketing.
Yes. And every year since. It's I have now dialed down on the number of inspections that I do, but I have raised my pricing in accordance. So now I actually do better with doing less inspections
and less liability too. I mean,
yes, sir.
That's good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, that is awesome. So you started 2013, 14. Now,
Yep.
Was Tennessee licensed at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm number 1244, license number 1244. I think it was 0809. I know now they're up into the 3000s as far as licensure.
That sounds like North Carolina. I'm 1126, and I think there might be the upper threes or fours now.
Sure.
It's weird though. It slowed down. It was like for a while, it was like, man, it was a little bit like a puppy mill.
Right.
But I think it's actually slowed down a little bit now. But so you serve the Johnson City, Bristol. What's the other?
Kingsport.
Kingsport. Yep. Now,
yep.
how wide of a swath, like if you could do a radius, how far around would you say?
Well, I stop at Virginia because they're licensed. I stop at North Carolina because they're licensed. And so I figured if I got those licensed, then I would have to travel to Asheville or up into Virginia when I don't need to do that if I'm staying busy in Tennessee. So I've kept my Tennessee license. So I stop at the borders of each state and then go towards Knoxville. I've got some good friends in Knoxville who are excellent inspectors. Dusty Jameson, if you're familiar with him, is a great inspector. So I stopped really, you've heard of Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge.
Oh yeah, been there a bunch of times. Yeah.
So that's 45 minutes.
The water park.
Yeah, man. So I try to stop around that area. So I probably cover 60-mile radius, more being kind of west of me, but I'll go west 60 to 70 miles, I'd say.
Cool. And I'm sure your area is growing too, right? I mean, we're all in the Southeast, we're all kind of blessed because the weather's, it's weird. I mean, I guess it's kind of the perfect storm. We have all four seasons, but none of them are like bitter, cost of living, taxes. I mean, I'm sure Tennessee, just like North Carolina, pretty much all the Southeastern states are.
You can probably attest to this, but I know that at least 2 to 3 of my inspections per week is from a resident of one of 4 states.
New York, New Jersey.
Well, it used to be that, but now it's California, Oregon, Washington, and Colorado.
Wow.
Those 4 states, dude, in droves are coming to now. So we have, I don't know about you guys, we have no state income tax. Are y'all the same?
No, we have state income tax.
Okay. And I think our state budget is one of the only ones that's in a surplus. And so a lot of people are coming to this area, Knoxville.
Nashville. Well, in Nashville, I know I listen to a lot of podcasts, entrepreneur podcasts. Nashville is becoming a mecca. I mean, obviously the music, but for entrepreneurship, a lot of like Story Brand and obviously Dave. Can't think right now, Dave. The entrepreneur leadership and all that. So
yes,
good stuff. Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, KC, your marketing, what you did. You kind of alluded what you did there in the beginning. You went to offices and you did. So tell us, take us through your marketing, because that's pretty incredible. You did 300 your first year.
How I did it. I'll tell you exactly. Yes. So I have a friend who's a realtor, and so he would provide me the Realtor Association information as far as sales per agent and what have you. I targeted the top 50 and the top 50 only, and just, friended them on Facebook, liked their pictures, and try to be genuine and sincere, but just tried to make a personal connection with those 50. And I think I probably honestly ended up landing about 8 to 10 of them where they were using me, not primarily, but I was on top of the rest of the list. I was, the list of 3, they were like little star by my name. And so, if they were doing a deal a week, sometimes 2, man, it was filling my schedule up. I used to do 10 a week, 2 a day, Monday through Friday. And that alone filled up my schedule. So that I sent emails to them. I'd make phone calls to them. I'd Facebook message, just any way I could contact with them, just asking asking for that opportunity, and saying, hey, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to report what's there. You're going to have that report same day. I'm going to be available for any questions afterwards. Work with you and your clients any way I can so that you understand the conditions at home. And man, it just it took,
that's awesome. Well, probably your contractor background too. That helps because you could probably how contractors come in, some contractors come in after the inspection and can be a little opportunistic, and you could probably provide a little bit of no, wait a minute, I was in that world. Yes. What they're telling you is not completely true. I'm sure he's right.
And that's digging a little more into this. I'm probably one of and that's, I didn't know if you'd want to do this interview because I'm 8 years in and I'm still a single inspector firm.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that, man.
Well, and I was going to say there's a reason. After losing that business, I could remember, now we would have slow times in the winter, and I can remember the stress of feeling responsible for their livelihood. I would know that, hey, let's throw a name out there. John has a new baby and I don't have any jobs for him this week. And it would make me, really make me sick with stress. And I didn't want to go through that again. And then just being responsible for others. I'm a control freak. I'm a perfectionist. And
there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's days I wish and I, in my podcast, I try to interview both, and there's nothing wrong. I don't chide anybody, and I know, Inspector Projo is out there, and I like them. They've done, and they interview a lot of people who are trying to grow to multi, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
But there's value in being. I mean, there's days, you can make a good living without a lot of, massive. I mean, there's so many days I've gone, man, I wish I was back to, and I experienced it early on. Like when I was a kid, I used to mow yards in the neighborhood. In my dad's, and man, I was killing it. I mean, this was back before all the crews. I was working myself to death, but I was making a lot of money, and for a kid. And then eventually, I hired a couple of my friends. I hired a couple more, and I had 4 or 5 crews going back then. And I made more gross, but my margin went way down, and I was constantly going back. Somebody didn't do something, or somebody trampled on the flowers, or this and that, and I kind of learned early on. I was like, I was a lot happier when it was just me. If I probably would have toned it down a little bit and maybe raised my prices and instead of trying to do it all and made a little bit more money doing less work, So I feel you, man. I feel you. And, there may be someday when I retire that I might just do that. I might retire and move somewhere else and just hang a shingle out. And if I do a couple inspections a week, I'm happy. Just keep me busy.
You're a great manager. And see, that's the difference. That's why you're, in my opinion, you're as successful as you are. You're a great manager. I'm sure you take care of your employees very well, and that's why you've grown to what you've grown into. But you also, you have expectations, you have guidelines that your guys have to follow. And if they follow this routine, then most things are going to come out good in the wash. I mean, it's going to eliminate these callbacks, eliminate this stress on the back end. Are you still going to have that? Absolutely. But you've got it as good as it's going to get due to your managerial skills. Whereas I'm kind of the nice guy. I couldn't really, I mean, as far as like, oh, it'll be okay. Stuff happens. And yes, you got to be understanding, but I was just never a great manager. Right. Very tough on myself, but hard for me to do that to somebody else, Oh
yeah. No, it's tough. And it's tough. Like if you have to fire somebody, it's really tough. I mean, I've said this on other podcasts. I will say for anybody listening out there, there's 2 quotes on that though, that it's like, nobody ever said you fired somebody too soon. You always waited too late. And then the other one, I hope this doesn't offend you because I know you're very Christian, but
No,
if I wake up thinking about you more than 3 days in a row and we're not sleeping together, you got to go.
Yes, sir.
You got to go. If you're in my brain that much, you got to go. But no, and it's KC, I work with a lot of young people and stuff. And one thing that I'd say, we grew up in a time when, they told us to go to college and all this. And, and I grew up thinking, I went to college. The reality is, man, if you pick up a trade and you're good at it, whether it's heating and air, plumbing, electrician, home inspector, anything like that, go work somewhere, learn it, and then maybe start your own. Just you and a van can easily make 6 digits, easy, without even trying real hard.
Absolutely. Pride and drive, man. If you've got those two, the sky is the limit, dude.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people I know with a college degree that can't get a job making $50,000-$60,000 a year, and even then, they're sitting behind a desk, hoping that they're unhappy. Yeah, or the company gets bought out and there's and then they lose their job and now they're looking again. I'll tell you right now, if you can fix an air conditioner, you can sign your own check all day long. Yes, and the same thing, I think home inspection will eventually be like heating and air or plumbing, where you do have the outfits that have multiple, trucks, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you also have the one man. We got a heating and air guy. I love him, man. He's just a one man operator. He might have a helper every now and then, but I prefer it. Now the downside is, if he's busy or out of town, that stinks. But I think there's room for both. And I think it's going to be the same way in home inspection. I think eventually we're going to get to a point where, yes, there are the bigger companies that have the multiple ones.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but you're also probably going to have the one-man shows. And there's advantages and disadvantages to each. And I always say, like in marketing, if you plan to stay a one-man, which is fine, market what your strengths are. You're always going to get the owner of the company. You're always going to, you're not going to get somebody. Don't talk bad about the other, but you advertise to your strengths. Now, obviously, if you had a multi-inspector firm, your strong point would be like, hey, we can accommodate you no matter what the time is. Because a one-man person, if he gets booked up, he's booked up. There's certainly
also the reviews. A multi-inspector firm is going to have a ton of reviews. That's something to tout. Like you said, the availability. You're going to be able to get there in a day or two, where a single man, due to being limited to one employee, maybe 7-8 days out, what have you. I see it going multi-inspector. We're in all these groups and we see all these inspectors starting out. I feel for them, and a lot of them are doing very well, but the single guys starting out, it is a total different game today.
It used to be.
Oh my gosh. You can't get in. Just due to COVID here in the last 2 years, you can't get in those offices and make those personal connections anymore. I know a lot of these guys are having success going to open houses, and actually meeting, but that's one realtor that you're meeting, it's definitely nowhere near as easy as it used to be. And as well, these multi-inspector companies with, I don't want to say bottomless pockets, but the money that they can put into marketing and advertising, it's hard to break in as a single. It can be done, but it's much harder.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I started in the mid 90s. Back then there weren't many multi-inspectors at all, and everybody went to the office all the time, every day. So if you just went around to the offices and took cards, you'd get business. It was that easy. Got a little harder and harder, where pretty soon you got to start sponsoring the sales meetings or speaking or getting in front of them, CE classes and stuff, and people still do that today. But now, and especially after COVID, but it was headed that direction anyway, where there's less and less people in the offices. I go to some of the old offices and literally, unless you have an appointment, you can't even get in there.
No, parking lot's empty anyway.
Yeah. And there's still some value in that. I'm not going to completely discourage somebody from doing that.
Sure.
But it's certainly a lot harder than like you said. It literally in the mid 90s, it was like the fish were jumping in the boat. You could, but now, and it can be done. It's just, you really have to be a lot more strategic about your marketing and doing some stuff like you said. And for all the people who are listening out there, if you know an agency, you can get that list. I think what they're getting is broker metrics. It's Teraditum or something like that.
Okay.
You can actually get it yourself, but it's really expensive. It's like a subscription. Yeah. And it's like, cause I looked into it and man, it was I forget. There was like an initiation cost, and then it was like a monthly cost. They get that list there, and it's like they have all of it broken down, transactions, like how many on the sales side, how many on the, and all this. And it's valuable information, but I'm like, I just need that list like once a year. That's all I need. I don't need it every month because it's not going to change that much.
It shows you who to target. I mean, with your advertising or with just yourself, instead of wasting energy on somebody who may be doing, now they may grow into something else, but wasting your energy on somebody who's doing 3 or 4 deals a year, because that's not going to do anything to keep you busy.
Yeah. Now, if my recommendation would be do what you did. Find somebody who, has an office, and they get this because they're recruiting agents. Think about it. If you're a real estate office, they're trying to recruit these top people too. So, take them out to eat, or, I've literally messaged them before, say, hey man, I'll be right up front. I was like, hey, I'm trying to get a list of the top agents. I think I even just came out and says, I'll trade you a steak at Ruth Chris for one, if you have to have it. I didn't beat around the bush. And he sent it to me. He said, nah, man, you don't have to do that. But I sent it anyway. I sent the gift card anyway. And,
invaluable, man. Invaluable.
Yeah, it comes as a spreadsheet, and you can, work it however you want. But there's that. And then there's other ways. I think in Redfin or something, you can look on there that has some information, might not have complete. And most of the areas have something called Real Producers magazine. In fact, hang on a second, I got it right here.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I don't know if it shows up.
Yes, it does.
Real Producers. Usually
it's Conway on there, ain't it?
What's that?
Is that Wally on there on the front?
No,
it looked a lot like it.
Vic Petrinko. It does look like.
Oh, okay.
It does look like the hat.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, in this Real Producers magazine, so they're basically getting that same list and they're publishing it. So usually, so you can see. I don't know if you can see in this thing.
It coming in a little.
Top agents. My virtual thing.
Yeah.
I think they're pulling it from MLS. I can pull from MLS. The only downside of the MLS thing is, though, our MLS, it'll give you the name, but that's it. You got it. Now you got to go find their email and their mailing address.
Those are the whales, dude. Those, like you said, if you can land some of those top producers, man, it'll. Oh
yeah. Well, think about it. Some of them are doing, anywhere from 25 to 100 transactions a year.
Yes.
And think about it. Like all you need is about 6 or 7 of those.
Absolutely.
And man, you're set. Yes. A one-man shop. Literally about 400 inspections in my mind is about, you can bust it and do more, but if you want a good quality of life and not kill yourself, I would say 400, give or take a little bit.
Let's jump into something kind of crazy that I don't know if you've ever.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. I hope you're getting value out of it. I'm sponsoring, I guess, myself. I'm not really selling anything, but hey man, I thought I'd just tell you about, I do a little art on the side, PrestonsHandling.com. Check it out if you got some time. Kind of do some cool looking stuff, I think, but I understand that art is subjective. Also, I'll follow you back if you follow me on TikTok. I'm Inspector Crazy Pants. I'm Inspector Crazy Pants on Instagram. We have 2 on Instagram, Inspector Crazy Pants and Home Inspection Carolina. We are also, Home Inspection Carolina on Facebook, and you can check out our website, homeinspectioncarolina.com. But you guys follow me, I'll follow you back. Comment, I'll try to comment back. I think it helps everybody's algorithm. So without further ado, I'll let you get back to the podcast. I just want to say I appreciate you listening, and hopefully we'll see each other sometime at a conference. Thanks a lot.
Noticed I'll throw it out places, web, some blogs. I even have it on my website. So yes, at one point, 1,500 agents in my area. At one point, I'm sure close to 200. I was on the list of close to 200, maybe a little more. A lot of those aren't doing, many deals a year, what have you. Today, 8 years in, 1,500 agents. if I'm on the list of 10, it would surprise me. And it's, any inspector is going to say that they're thorough. Any home inspector, yeah, I'm real thorough. I'm very thorough. But not to the point of scaring people. You always hear that oh, you're scaring the buyers to death. I can remember when I first started, I do a 70 to 90 page report,
I do too. And I know I know there's a lot of people that are like, it shouldn't be more than 20 pages or 30 pages.
And so that's what the feedback I was getting from agents, year 1, year 2, KC, you're scaring them to death. Let me show you so-and-so's report. It's 18 pages and there's 6 photos.
I'm going to get you to inspect my daughter's house.
Yes. So I was like, I can't talk about the exterior in 18 pages. So the more thorough I have became, the less agents that refer me. So now I'm trying to push this whole consumer advocate spin, as far as I want you to know everything. I always leave people with anything can be fixed, guys. Anything. Yeah. We have a lot of CMU block foundations here. So our basements, dude, no contractors ever do grading properly on the exterior. We have a lot of red clay, highly expansive, and man, that rainwater can't get away. It saturates that clay expands, it pushes on that block wall. We get cracking, man. 50 to 60% of block foundations I inspect have some degree of cracking. Wow. And now a lot of it is minor cracking. I don't like the word typical. I'll say minor, and so when I'm explaining it to them, I say, guys, it's a minor crack. Now I've got to tell you the condition of this crack at the time of inspection. What I can't tell you, and what an engineer even can't tell you, is what is this crack always going to stay in this condition?
Right. Is it going to get worse?
Yes. And it may go 20 years and look exactly the same and you don't have a concern.
Right.
Or 3 years down the road, it could start to worsen. And so I'm a big proponent of correcting things now, instead of waiting until they mess up. And you're already like, oh, I see why 10 agents only refer you now. But it goes back on that consumer advocate thing. I want to protect people, man. And I know the protect thing is getting phased out. Let me change that. I want to inform people of the potential. It may never, and I tell them just like that, just in layman's terms, guys, it may never get any worse. But nobody can tell you that other than time itself. Right. So if you could at least, if you want to have a helical pier installed to ensure it doesn't move anymore, if you got a horizontal crack, if you want to do some carbon fiber reinforcement, to make sure it don't bow anymore, just know that that's a potential. So I think me going like cast iron, and I don't want to get too technical. I know this is several aspects of this interview and home inspections, but cast iron, I'm always calling that stuff out. Whereas I see a lot serviceable at the time of inspection. Right. Well, if I see seepage at the bell and spigot connection, where you've got that ooze coming out of that oakum and lead there, I'm like, hey, that's going to be due to inner deterioration of that pipe and something happening with that seal there. It needs to be evaluated. You at least need to get a sewer scope. So I'm a little harder on things. So now all of my business comes from
the public, kind of.
Yes, my Google reviews.
That's what I was going to say. There's going to the public and then going to realtors, kind of.
Yes, and so for a guy starting out, we were just talking about all these new inspectors coming about.
Right.
You cannot survive by going directly to the public when you start out.
It takes time. It takes
time. Yes.
It's basically the internet and the blogs and the information that you put out there. You've got to get known as an expert. You know what I mean? And it's like that guy we were talking about earlier, love him or not. I mean, it's not up to us. The general population views him as an expert, the average person.
Right.
Same thing with Bob Vila. I've heard people say Bob Vila is an actor. He's like tie. He doesn't even do anything. He just comes out with the cameras going. He's just an act. But the perception is that guy knows. So to go to the public in your market, you're going to have to put out a lot of content, in my mind, a lot of useful, good content to where people start saying, hey, that KC Bartley guy, man, he knows his stuff, And Ruben's really good. I don't know if you know Ruben.
Oh, he's awesome.
Structure Tech up in
for
everybody listening, go look up Structure Tech in he's Minneapolis, I think.
He is
one of the best blogs ever. I mean, he puts out a ton of, but that I'm sure. What's your website?
prohitn.com. So short for Professional Home Inspections Tennessee, but prohitn.com. And so talking about this, these guys have got to, you at least have to hang in with these realtors for 2 years, get that client base built up to where that word of mouth will kind of take over. Right. Then you can kind of draw that line in the sand if you want to and say, I'm here for the people. And that's kind of what I've done on the website. I have one of the third.
Oh, I like your website. I checked it out before.
Thank you, man. I'm your home inspector, not your realtors. That's like my third subject line. So that alone, when people see that separation between me and realtors, I get some business due to that alone. And we talked about generalizations. There's some great real estate agents that care about their client, want their client in a good home, don't want them to have issues. A lot of them out there. And that's why I don't want to generalize. But on the other side of the coin, there's also a lot. I always talk about point A, point B. They want your name on the offer, signature on the offer. They want your signature at the closing table. That's the two things they care about. Not all of them, by no means. Right. But you've got it. So it's important for home buyers to find an agent.
Well, they're transaction based, not relationship based.
There you go.
If you really want to be in the long haul, it's not just this transaction. It's their family, their friends, them every 5 years. And if all you're concerned about are those two signatures, you're just churning and burning. That's all you're doing.
Absolutely. The long game, playing the long game, caring about that client. And then that client is going to tell people about you for the rest of their life. Right. You've got to use so-and-so. They took care of us so well, helped us out. I wish more saw that instead of the short-sightedness.
Well, let me ask you this, KC. You and your wife try out a new restaurant and you have a phenomenal experience from the time you get there, the seating, the service, the food. Everything was good. You never had to ask for a refill. It was filled. What do you want to do the next day and the next day? What do you when you see friends and you talk to people?
You've got to check this place out. It was awesome. Yeah.
Right. You want to share it. You want to share that experience. So that's what I always tell people, make your home inspection like that, where it's just like a phenomenal experience to where, people want to be the person that tells people about the cool new place or the you know what I mean? It gives you a position of, I don't know, you just like it. I mean, if I experience something, I want to help that business, but my ego, I want to be the person that told you about this good place. You know what I mean? Like same thing. And I mean, think about it. Most home inspections are just home inspections, but if you can somehow go beyond that, which I think a lot of it, like you said, is educating. And just giving them a lot of feedback. A lot of people, grew up in a condo or something like that. And, they called the maintenance guy whenever there was a problem. Right. Home ownership, the more and more as we become a more, I hate to say people living in city, when you lived out on a farm, you learned how to do stuff because you had to. Right. But, that was, that's rare now. So the more you can educate them about, I did a program where it was to get people out of public housing into home ownership. And it was a great program, but it was like, and I'm not trying to sound bad, but these people never change filters. They never do, hey, you got to change the filters, you got to change those batteries twice a year. You got just a lot of home ownership stuff, never cleaned out, the sediment out of a water heater, just home maintenance stuff. So,
and I put a lot of that into my report because I feel people don't know. I try not to get too explanative on it, but any information that I can put in there, just in informational sections, to kind of show them some maintenance tips or what have you, I'll do. And that's once again, we talking about the restaurant, go above and beyond as much as you can. And I try to, and I know this is so taboo in the industry in some regards, but exceed the SOP.
Oh yeah.
Wherever I can, man. I mean,
that's just a minimum standard of, you know what I always say, KC, I tell people, I said, there's the law and there's religion. And I don't care what religion you are, but there's the law is the minimum standard of behavior. If you don't do this, you go to jail or some penalty. But, there's things you can do that aren't against the law. I mean, you could be dating, somebody and cheat on her, and that's not technically against the law, but it's certainly unethical. And it's certainly against almost every religion. Yes, I don't care what religion you are. So, do you want the minimum standard of behavior or the highest standard of behavior?
Yes.
And that's kind of the way I look at it. I mean, I hate when people hide behind the SOPs. Yes. I do like that, they're there to protect us if, we can't see through walls or predict future stuff. Absolutely. But I hate that, representative number of, outlets or windows. I know why that's there because, if there's furniture there or something that protects, you couldn't get to that one. I get it. But there are some folks that read that as well. I only have to check one or two. And no, you check every single one that you can. Yes. Literally every house, there better not be more than one or two outlets you can't get to. I mean, you can move stuff. I mean, it's just, you can go above the standards of practice.
In regards to, SOP and code, and you had a great explanation. And the way I've always said it, in what industry or what profession can you do the minimum required of you and be successful? Yeah. I mean, if you're always doing just the minimum, just enough to get by, are you going to have true success? I mean, you want to take it above, whenever and wherever possible.
Well, that and always put yourself in the customer's shoes. I mean, we're always looking at it like, all right, well, according to my standards of practice, I only had to do this and that and that. All right, let's say that was your daughter buying that house.
Absolutely.
And your daughter, she's 20, I have two daughters, one's 21 and one's 20, she's 23, 24 buying her first house, and you're her dad and you're out of state. And now she's got this problem. And that's what the guy is telling you that inspected it. Well, I did a representative number of outlets. Sorry that one, didn't work. Mm-hmm. Like really that's what you're telling me. I mean, put yourself in the other person's shoes. It's empathy, I mean,
dude, empathy was coming out of my mouth. That's awesome. Yes, sir.
Yes, I mean, and again, I mean, you're always going to get crazy people. But don't die on that hill of, try, what is that, what's that, seek first to understand before you seek to be understood, understand where they're coming from. And if where they're coming from isn't crazy, then maybe you need to, see if you can help these people out somehow, I don't.
Yes, sir.
Well, a couple things. Tell me, I want to know like what kind of educational stuff you're putting out there, blogs and that sort of stuff, and how do you promote it? And then I want to get into the group that you started as well.
Okay, a lot more than I need to. I have some videos on YouTube. I try to help, pay it forward, man. I look at myself as so blessed, like I said, to do as many inspections that first year and for it to have continued on now. And so many inspectors are, I mean, you see it on these groups, where do I do this? How do I do this? How do I get this business? And so I try to help in any way possible. I have guys message me and girls, women and men message me all the time. And I'll do anything I can to try to help them. That's kind of why, I came out with CHIA, the Christian Home Inspectors Association. I wanted a differentiator for us, for honest home inspectors that were thorough and truly cared about your purchase, wanted you to know as much as possible. And I thought, what better way to do that than, to say, hey, I'm a Christian and, John 7:12, do unto others, I mean, if I, what you put out there is what you get back. I created it to try to, so if home buyers came to a website, saw CHIA seal, hey, they're a Christian, I can trust them. And I hope that's the case, and it's just getting off the ground. We've got the group going right now. I'd like to turn it into a very small association, nothing like Notchy or Ashy, more just, a website with kind of the mission statement of the association, that we're going to do our very best, to God's standards, not to any state standards or association standards. We're going to try to help out as much as possible. And then just simply a member directory. Hey, this guy's a member. He's a CHIA inspector, so I'm just trying to find a differentiator to help people get more business. I was in Chicago last week, and I get all these thoughts, man. My mind goes a million miles an hour, and I get all these
ADD.
thoughts.
Not like
yes.
ADD.
Oh, eat up with it, Preston. Eat up with it, squirrel. But I'm so eat up with it. But I'll do these inspections post-purchase, where somebody will find me on the web, and they either had a home inspection that was an hour drive-by thumbs up inspection, or they didn't have an inspection. And I'll go in there and I find, tens of thousands of dollars worth of issues. And so I got thinking about that they, had no idea about, was it disclosed, what have you. And that's where the advocate came from. So I would love to create something from an inspector advocate or inspection advocate standpoint, even some other type of thing that where you take a pledge that you're going to do your very best. And most of us are, 90% of us are going in there, trying to tell these people what to expect with the purchase of this home. But I'm trying to find ways to pronounce it on websites, to display that hey, we care, here's what we're doing, yada yada.
Well, it's kind of like what you said. We were talking about a minimal standard of behavior, or do you subscribe to a higher standard of?
Yes, sir. And then lastly is my template. I don't know if you've seen anything on it, but I've created an inspection template. It only really works for Spectora. You could download it as an Excel file and try to use it other places, but it's kind of built for Spectora. But man, that's once again God, dude. I've sold it 350 times across the US for $515 each, and that sounds high. But dude, it's there's at least 2,000 hours of work into that template. So when somebody signs up for Spectora, they've got some free default templates, and if you look at them, it's like there's nothing in it. I mean, any software is going to have that. They're going to have their free available templates.
Right.
And we're all in that process of updating our templates, of changing things and what have you. But I've tried to create a template that covers all bases, and anything in it is verifiable, meaning I have pulled it from IPC, NEC, IRC, the DCA 6, the NVMA for claddings, what have you, without referencing that material, keeping our independence from code. But then if they select that comment out on a job site, they don't have to worry about the electrician coming in and saying, that's not right, because there is background information, a source to back it up every time. Gotcha. I know we're not code inspectors, but you've got to, if you're going to call something wrong, you better have something to back it up with.
Exactly. No, I love it, man. If I was using Spectora, I'd buy it.
We're still yours is amazing, dude.
Yeah, we're using HomeGauge.
I was with them for years.
Yeah. Chip looked at Spectora, and again, this thing's going to go live, so I have to be careful what I say. Nothing bad. It's just that he got right to the midnight hour with it, and there was one or two things that we were hoping they would do or something. I don't know. I got to talk to Kevin at some point. They've said they made some changes. So.
Russell probably kill me. Is Buchanan? Is he still over HomeGauge?
Yeah, but I don't. I know they sold, but I don't know if he's still involved. And then I mean, it's a good product. But before that, I was with 3D. I mean, I don't have any complaints about any software I've ever had. It usually was the best at the time.
Exactly.
That's just all I'll say,
Exactly.
And
that's why you change. You want the most efficient, and what gives your clients the most easily readable report, and what's, once again, efficient for you on site. Yeah, man.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and as things progress, just like anything else. I mean, my first digital camera, had a floppy disk with a thing. It was the best at the time. Right now, that there's something a lot more efficient. So I mean, but
what I was going to say, HomeGauge is great, and that was going to be my disclaimer leading out. HomeGauge is great software. Spectora is amazing. I've used them both. That's the way you anyway, but give them another look as they're making changes. They're about to launch Spectora X, which is a whole new app platform. The power of Spectora is in their location tags. And I think HomeGauge and even HIP, who I was with before HomeGauge, has similar things. But most of my narratives will read, let's do something simple. There were receptacles with S in parentheses present at the referenced areas, S in parentheses, that tested as having an open ground. This can be a potential shock hazard. Repairs are recommended to be performed by a licensed electrician as needed to properly wire the receptacle, or what have you. So the power in it is present at the referenced areas. So when you select that comment, then all you do is hit location, and then you'll click hallway, master bathroom, bedroom number 2, and you're done. Instead of some of the other softwares I would use, you would have to actually go in and change the narrative and say, oh, receptacles with an open ground were found in the hallway, in bathroom number 2, and in the downstairs den.
A lot of typing.
Yeah, and this is just click, bam, 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 your locations, and done, and take some photos. And so they've got a good thing going, man.
Yeah, I got to look at it. Well, Chip, I had Chip, our manager. He's the one, that's over that. So, I mean, it's like, but I'm trying to get him to take a second look at it. I mean, he was like on it way before it was even a thing. And we were like at the midnight hour, we were getting ready to pull the trigger on that. But then there was something that we wanted, or that it wouldn't do, or something. And that was at the time was a deal killer, but we'll revisit. Well, I got a couple more questions, Casey. Sure, and I don't want to hold you up too long. We're already pushing an hour here.
Yeah, man.
What you kind of alluded to this in the beginning, but if somebody came up to you today, like at a conference or something, and they're just now getting into being a home inspector, and they've listened to your podcast, they've watched some of your vlogs, something like that, what advice would you give them? I mean, you're having a beer with them. It's later in the day. What advice would you give that young? Well, it doesn't have to be young, is in inspecting, new to inspecting.
Yes. As far as breaking into the industry, right?
Yeah.
Profession. You're going to have to be as professional and personable, because this industry is it's just as important to make relationships as it is to do a good inspection. You've got to make a great relationship with that agent. You got to make a great relationship with that home buyer. Especially with the home buyer, is going to drop your liability. But being personable, professional, showing up on time, then you go into marketing, advertising. You better come out the gate looking like the best inspector in town. And that is logoed shirts, tucked in, the best business cards you can have, the best rack cards you can have, an amazing website with scheduling functionality built in. Act as if. That's from an old movie that I won't get into because it doesn't really go with Christian values, but act as if. Act as if you are the number one inspector in that area, and it will come about. So, just dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, getting with the right software, and man, I of course sell a template, but I believe the template is the backbone of your business. Tell me how many reports you've read that says open ground noted. And when we're going on this whole open ground theme, but that's it. Electrical section, open ground noted. No repercussions, no suggestions for repair. And sometimes there's not even a period. It's not even a complete sentence. So being professional, because you're ultimately judged on that report. That is your final product. And man, you better be grammatically correct. Some nice photos.
Struggle with that.
Well, we all do. Grammarly, dude, is a game changer if you use that. But that'd be my advice. Act as if and go at it with 110%, man.
Awesome. Well, KC, and I know you're a Christian fellow, so I don't want to. Hopefully, it's not too bad. But what is the craziest, weirdest, or funniest thing you've ever seen on a home inspection? Yeah, it's kind of putting you on the spot. I can come back to that one.
I could go gross, man. I mean, we've all got the gross hoarder homes that and I'm sure you've done it as well, as long as you've been doing this. You take a step in the front door, you turn back around and leave. I mean, I don't care if you put your Tyvek on, a respirator, goggles, I mean, we're talking feces from multiple species, all across the house, odors, trash. So that's definitely not funny, but those are the ones that, so some I won't even enter. The ones I do enter, I cannot get home fast enough to pull my clothes off and get in the shower, dude. Yeah.
I've had a few of those. Yeah. And it's like, you alluded to this at the beginning. I did too. I'm a little, my wife says I have hoarding tendencies, but if you watch an episode of Hoarders, you'll want to clean your house. You will want to throw some stuff out.
Yes, sir.
I know we've all been on those inspections where it's like, oh my God. I mean, there's like trash bags just stacked up all over. I know of some houses that have literally been bulldozed just because of that. They just, extreme hoardism, or what, I don't know if that's the right word, but
it works. It works. Yes, sir. Yes,
all right.
sir.
Well, lightning round here, and I won't hold you up.
All
right. Football or basketball?
Football.
Christmas Vacation or Elf?
Christmas Vacation.
Animal House or Caddyshack?
Caddyshack.
If you could have dinner with anyone alive or dead, who would it be?
Donald Trump, don't kill me.
It's all good. Let's see. Would you rather have a day at the beach or a day at an amusement park?
Day at the beach, absolutely.
Are you iced coffee or hot coffee?
Hot coffee.
Android or iOS?
Apple. Everything.
Really? Oh,
I think I'm raising the stock prices by myself, dude.
My whole family is Apple everything, but I'm the Android PC guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man. I'm a holdout. Let's see. Oh, the last one here, this or that. Toilet paper over or under?
Over.
Yeah. There's been a handful of people said under. I know some
really.
That'll switch it. Be like, I fixed it.
OCD. That's almost a defect in and of itself. If I sit in the bathroom, I'm like, these people are cavemen.
All right. Well, last question here, KC. This is the one I always ask everybody. If you woke up in a brand new world tomorrow, everything, you got all your room and board, all your training, truck, room and board, all that's taken care of. You don't have to do any training, all that. But all of a sudden, you're in a brand new world. Roughly 1 million people like you got now, but you don't know anybody. And, let's say you got $5,000. What are you going to do with that $5,000 to get out there and market your business? It's kind of an ROI question. Like, if you had $5,000 to market, what would be the best use of it?
Starting out, website number one, plain good old fashioned business cards. Number two, handing them out, shaking hands. That's me. Yeah. Website, absolutely number one. They've got to have somewhere to go to find out about you. You can put so much information on a website. Physically handing them the business card, so that they know where to go to. And once again, eye contact and making those relationships, being sincere, being genuine, asking for that opportunity. That's how I would do it. If I was starting all over again, I would do it the same way. I know it would be much more difficult, but face-to-face interactions with agents, asking for their business, at least an opportunity. They're going to have their 3 that they've used for years and years and years. Give me a chance. I won't let you down,
Absolutely. Yeah. That's good. And then over time, I think, now I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but over time, from what you've said, try to move it a little bit more towards going direct to the public. Probably have to start out in the beginning, targeting realtors. But I think as time goes on, I mean, I target realtors, absolutely I do. But as time goes on, and the way reviews, people doing their own research, you're going to see more and more business coming from the public, and some people not even using realtors anymore. I mean, they're doing it themselves, or they're getting an attorney, whatever, but they still have to have a home inspection. So if they do their own research, I think if you have a really powerful blog, if they look up home inspection, your city, whatever it is, and you come up, your videos, your blogs, and it's very informative, I think you're going to get that business. That's my thoughts. If I have one goal or one dream or one thing I'm striving for, you and Klima, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. You and Klima, we're doing a great thing, are doing a great thing with the pre-inspected house. Yeah. You're trying to get the client to come to you. If and the real estate industry is so huge, it's almost impossible to go against that monster. But if there's any way that we could get clients to come directly to us, instead of having to rely on that list of 3, being on that list of 3, we've got it made. And if I can find any way, and with help from anybody in the country, that is my goal, is to find a way to where they can see us at the same time that they're maybe looking for an agent or what have you. If I can get us some type of independence from realtors, I would dance. I'm with you. I'd dance a jig. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up. And the idea was to, instead of, it's kind of like Carfax, right? I mean, I bought 2 cars now, sight unseen, where I bought the Carfax, and I just want to know, has it ever been wrecked, and has, it's bent frame, and how did it check out? As long as it's not rusted, I'm good. Let's go, and on the front end, and I was like, well, why can't cars be that? I mean, houses be that way. And I think every house should be inspected twice. I think it should be inspected on the front end, a pre-listing inspection.
It affects a seller so much.
Yeah, well, and get rid of any of those potential. And I know all the guys out there listening to that. And we the problem is we're fighting against a culture that it just has always been done a certain way. You know what I mean? And it's so hard to change. But in my perfect world, it would be so awesome if everybody got a pre-inspection, because for a couple of reasons. First of all, if there's anything major wrong with the house, they can get multiple offers on. I mean, they can get it fixed on their time.
In a time crunch. Yes, on the other side of the coin. Yes, sir.
Right. Yes, sir. And then not only that, now it's better for the buyer, because, if they're looking at house A, house B, and house C, there's not a big potential surprise. It's like, you know what I mean? Like door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. Well, there's an unwanted surprise behind door number 3, and you don't know it. That sort of thing. Now, I know a lot of inspectors will get on here and well, that inspector missed that and that and that. I always feel like most inspectors are going to find the big things.
That's correct.
I always tell people, if you and I both went and inspected the house and there were 3 big things, we both should have found those. Our list of small things are going to be different. It's just going to be different.
Absolutely.
But then I think the buyer should come in with their inspector, because time elapses. Maybe the house has been on the market 2 or 3 months, and things happen, the HVAC, mechanical stuff. And not only that, I mean, that inspectors, and I always tell people, because a lot of people don't like doing pre-inspections, because I tell them, I said, look, that inspector is going to find some stuff I didn't find. I will find some stuff they didn't find. But if there's any one item that's like over, I used to say $2,000. I'll probably go to 3 now, because everything's so more expensive.
Right.
You know what? I'll refund your money on that pre-inspection, and it's legit. I should have found it. But and does it happen once in a while, but not very often.
You all launched this, and man, you gentlemen are much smarter than I, but you all launched this in a seller's market. And
Yeah.
and so it makes it that much tougher. But now once we transition, which is coming, as you know, too, back to that buyer's market, I see pre-inspected houses, homes doing much better, because that buyer, that seller is going to want to make sure everything's okay, because buyers aren't coming around like they are right now. And they're going to want to make sure once they do get under contract that there's not a problem that's going to scare them. As it were now, they're like, oh, well, shoot, we'll have another offer tomorrow if you back out, or what have you. Once we transition back to that buyer's market, I see this platform.
Yeah, it's inspectedhouses.com. And the idea was too that the seller could sell their report. I think it's for $19.95. And then at the end of the month, that money goes back to the seller, less a $2 transaction fee or something.
Making up for that money they spent.
Well, it costs money for whenever you use a credit card, it costs money. And the platform has to make a little bit of money. I ain't gonna lie about that. I mean, we're not doing it for free. But the idea was to offset, because a lot of sellers don't want to pay for it. I still think it's a great idea. And we use it. I mean, it's not a majority of our business, not even close. We have probably at any given time, probably 4 or 5 out there, but there's signs in the yard. It's good marketing. It's a really good tool. It's just something out there, but I agree with you. I think when it becomes more of a buyer's market again, sellers will do anything in the world to market that house, but right now they don't have to, and they don't have to fix anything. So they're like, I'm not spending any more money than I have to. But yeah, if you want to check it out, it's inspectedhouses.com. And thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
But while we're on that, tell us, KC, about where they can find you, how they can join your association, and if they wanted to buy your template or anything like that, how can they find you or follow up with you?
Website, prohitn.com. YouTube, that's going to point you to YouTube, Instagram, professional home inspections on the Facebook page. Inspectortemplate.com is for the inspection template. It's website's a little rough now. I've got somebody working on it. It's going to be going to be a lot more functional here coming up. But lastly, just man, charge for that template. Man, I want to be a resource. I by no means know even close to everything. I'm smart enough to know everything I don't know. But man, I encourage anybody that's listening that wants my advice, wants my take on something, my perception, or if I can help in any way, do not hesitate. Drop me a Facebook message, phone number.
Join your group too. I mean, there's a lot of good help.
Join Chia. So we've got Chia. I've also got the home inspection, advocate group that I'm gonna start working on that too. But just well,
and it's a real professional group. There's no chest beating or.
Chia is excellent.
People willing to help each other without telling somebody they're an idiot or something.
Helpful people. But man, I just it makes me feel good. I get a high from helping others. I truly do. I don't care if I don't sell anything. I want to improve this industry for all of us. And if people have ideas, help me, I'll help you. Let's figure this out, because we can do it. And let's keep pushing forward, man.
Yeah, same. And I realized a long time ago, it's like, what, we're all going to die, KC. I mean, we're all going to die. I mean, I'm 52 years old. My dad died at 74. I mean, what, I just said, what do I want my legacy to be? I mean, obviously I want to do well in business and for my family and stuff, but beyond that, the greatest thing ever is when somebody comes up and say, hey man, that thing you told me about, that really helped my business. And man, that's like
nothing, man. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than that. And I don't even care if you're in my market. I mean, man, none of us are starving out there. All right. I mean, it's not gonna, and I get it, but man, leave it better than you found it. That's the whole thing.
Absolutely, my friend.
Well, one more time before we let off here, the website's one more time, because some people are probably driving that were listening to this.
Yeah, it is prohitn.com, prohitn.com.
Awesome. And the inspector, is it inspectortemplate.com?
Inspectortemplate.com. Yes, sir.
And Christian Home Inspectors Association.
Yes. On Facebook for now as a group. It's a lot more difficult to form an association than at first thought. I thought, oh, I'm gonna pay LegalZoom $549 and we'll be up and rolling. And a nonprofit association is a lot more difficult than I thought. So I'm having to get with some attorneys and get all this paperwork done. But I want to start some type of small association. Nothing nachi, no SOP, just a code of ethics. And once again, it's gonna be God's ethics, man, and hard to trump that.
Awesome.
Yes,
Well, KC, thank you for your all your gold nuggets that you've given, all your advice, good stuff. I think everybody here probably got something they can use. And if you did, go like this guy's page, subscribe to his YouTube, and subscribe to Inspector Crazy Pants too, by the way.
Yes.
It'll help me out a little bit. But
yes,
thank you, KC. I'll catch you on the flip side, brother.
Very welcome, Preston.